Tego, Sewenhniseriióhak. I'd like to touch on a subject in this capsule today, one that everybody's well aware of, the subject of G&R recycling. This is a problem that even predates what you see today. What you saw in our community for many years, even before I became chief. The problem with dumping, there was at a time there was some individual who wanted to store medical waste on our territory, and the council at the time stopped it. Now we move on. During my time, 2011, 2012, there's still dumping activities going on, and we saw in 2012 we tried to get the federal, provincial, and municipal to try to help us to stop this activity. We were trying to beg the governments to stop those trucks. We stop the trucks, we don't have a problem. But they said they couldn't do it because of their stupid law. So we did everything we could. Then before G&R became G&R, there was some dumping activity going on at Asaneso. And I know many of you know we had hundreds of trucks coming in regularly and dumping on a particular site, which posed a risk to everyone around the area. So managed to stop that, and it was shortly after that that G&R wanted to do, the owners of G&R, I asked them if they wanted to do legitimate construction material recycling. So they agreed. They acquired the land, and we had a resolution. We also have a contract that has specific conditions they have to meet. One, council adopted environment regulations from Canada and Quebec until we could do our own. So they have to adhere to those. In the contract, we mentioned that no hazardous materials are to be brought onto the site. The mountain is not to be touched, and they are to respect the provincial permit that they have to get. Why a provincial permit? Because the trucks are coming from licensed trucks of the provincial, as well as construction sites in and around Montreal from the province of Quebec. So everything was to be done legitimately. Where this went the way it did, I'm not quite sure. The provincial government, being the permit giver, had the obligation to do inspections on a regular basis. And over the years, they brought their concerns that they were overexploiting the site. And they assured us that they were going to conduct regular inspections. And there's a couple of times I did call them and I told them, we're going to have to do some inspections on the site, and they agreed. So that's where that went at that particular time. Now we see a bigger problem today. It's been existing now for well over a year, is the smell coming out from the site. I was assured that it was gyprock that's mixed in with the materials. When gyprock tends to smell like that, it smells like rotten eggs when it starts to rot. So there's some studies that were being done on the air quality, land, and water around the site. So I've yet to see any of those analysis. There's some preliminary, but there was nothing concrete yet. So they're moving on. The federal government has already gone in there and started doing analysis of the soil, air, and the water as of September 2nd, I believe. So we're waiting for those results. So I know that there's a lot of concerns about the health and safety of everyone around, just as council is. Take, for example, on a personal note, my mother lives a mile away from there. So when I go to visit, oftentimes I'll smell that same smell. There was even once I was at the post office in the Oka village, and I swear I could smell it from there. So it goes a lot further than just the neighborhood around the site. Now, there's remediation plans that are being talked about right now. G&R had agreed to reduce the piles on the site and dig trenches, install pumps to make sure that nothing leaches out of the site into the streams. So we decided, well, we're going to look at other options as well. And this is where another technology exists, where we can incinerate the material on the site and there's no toxic fumes or smoke that comes out of this system. What we do is it burns the material, and we could hook up turbines, and this would produce electricity that we could sell to Hydro-Quebec. So there's a lot of material on that site to do this. So council is looking at different options. There was the problem too with the federal and provincial governments were demanding that we revoke the resolution on G&R. And we were considering doing that. Then I realized if we were to do such a thing, there's a strong possibility that the land will revert back to the band, and then we're stuck paying the bill. And the estimated cost of the cleanup was somewhere between $70 to $100 million. And I don't think our band can cover that. So again, I need commitments from the federal or provincial governments that if this has to be done, that because the federal government failed in its fiduciary duty to provide us with the enforcement capabilities, then they are ultimately responsible. Over the years, they did provide us with the funding. I believe it was about 5 years ago. Minister McKenna, the minister at the time for Environment Change and for Environment and Climate Change Canada, had allotted us the funding to start our own environment department. But the problem was, again, we didn't have the enforcement capabilities. So there was nothing we could do. We had to depend on federal agencies to keep an eye on it and help enforce the rules. So we see that in a lot of places in our community where we lack either the financial or the human resources to address any given problem. So things are getting better, but again, we're still short on those resources. And I keep on talking with the ministers. Like recently, I've spoken to Minister Wilkinson's office. I've spoken to Minister Bennett, Miller, Belair, and explained to them in detail what we're facing here and what the federal government needs to do finally. I've been after them for 8 years to get the capabilities to make sure that these activities are regulated or outright stopped when they pose a threat to our community. So council will keep on working on it. I know I'm still working on it regularly. And as soon as we get more information, we'll post the information. But for the moment, we're still waiting on getting the analysis from the federal government to see what kind of contamination are we looking at. What is the amount of contamination? Because that changes the plan for remediation of the site. So the more serious it is, the more the cost. So this is what we're waiting for right now. And until then, the minister for Quebec, the minister who granted the permit, is about to revoke it. So no more trucks are going to be allowed on that site. But we're still left with, what do we do with the piles? And now the governments are going to be throwing the ball at each other. It's your fault, it's your fault, it's you pay for it, you pay for it. And we're going to be stuck in the middle? I don't think so. I don't think so. I'm not accepting that one bit. So I'll do whatever it takes to hold the governments accountable, and we'll keep you informed on the details coming out. So I appreciate your time. Niawenhkó.